Welcome to another episode of the Walk Foundation's March Madness podcast series. Today's episode is brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. Today we'll be going through the journey of Houston Mallette, a guard for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Houston will take you through his journey from high school in California, then played for Pepperdine and scored over 1,000 points, and is now playing for one of the top-ranked teams in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Houston.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you grew up in California, played at Pepperdine,
Yes.
and now you're here at Alabama. Can you walk us back to what it was like growing up in California?
Yeah, so I love California. I miss it a lot, but I'm really happy where I'm at now. So I grew up in the Bay Area in a city called Alameda, California, which is basically Oakland, California. It's like a little island right next to Oakland, California. So I grew up there for around 15 years. And then my dad ended up getting a job at UC Riverside, where he's now the athletic director. So he ended up moving to the Los Angeles area. And so when we moved down there, moved to Costa Mesa, or Huntington Beach was a city in Orange County. And once I moved there, basketball really took off. And I ended up going to Pepperdine University, where I spent my first 3 years of college, and now I'm in my fourth season here at the University of Alabama. California means a lot to me. It's a lot different. I feel like California is kind of its own country almost, but I miss it a lot. I love it. I love the sand, flip-flops, all that type of stuff. So the sushi, man, everything. I miss California a lot.
What was it like going to a Christian school? And I noticed that you played basketball at a Christian high school in California. At that time, were you close with the Lord, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, I would say, like everybody else, I feel like everybody has a different journey to the Lord. My journey was different. It was actually pretty interesting. So the Bay Area, I would say, is a very secular place. It's probably one of the most secular places in the country, in the United States. I believe that there was like this article that came out that said Berkeley, California, like 6% of people said they were followers of Christ. And I thought that was really interesting. So I grew up in a very secular place. However, my family, my father always instilled in me, what it was like to be a Christian man, what it was like to be a man of faith. So growing up, it was interesting because I didn't really have an idea or know what it meant to be a follower of Christ. So my dad would play like Christian worship music in the morning, and we go to church every now and then, but I wouldn't say I had like my own personal relationship with God. I had my own ideas about the world. I would say I believed in God, but I had my own certain ideas of the world. And there was things like I would agree with or didn't agree with. And just in like school and such, like God was never the priority. It was always everybody, how they feel about something or what their beliefs may be, which I think everybody should be able to feel a certain way or have their own beliefs. And I don't believe in pushing that on anybody, but growing up, I didn't have that as much. So I ended up going to a Catholic high school called Salesian College Preparatory in Richmond, California. So that was really different because I'd never gone to Catholic school. A lot of the Christian schools and private schools in the Bay Area are like of a Catholic diocese. So I went there. I ended up having a great relationship with the father there, whose name was Father Mel. We built a great relationship, and then halfway through my freshman year of high school, my dad moved to Los Angeles. So he was working at the Pac-12 at the time, and he ended up moving to Riverside or Huntington Beach and working at UC Riverside. So for the rest of that school year, from like January on to pretty much the summer, I was living with my godparents, and they would travel a lot, and I loved them dearly. So I just found myself often being alone a lot and feeling very, very sad. That was one of the hardest, most difficult times in my life. I was very down. My parents are divorced, so my mom was living in Florida, and then my dad's in SoCal, and I'm in NorCal, kind of by myself, just really trying to figure out kind of life. It was a very difficult period for me. And so I ended up transferring to Pacifica Christian High School. And this place changed my life, like changed my life. So when I got there, I remember the first day, I was like, why is everybody so nice? Like whenever I talk about it or mention it, I'm like, why is everybody so nice? And I'm thinking, man, this thing's about to, go away, because like I know what high school is like. And no, it never changed. And that place really changed my life because of the curriculum, and it shifted my whole thought process of what life was actually like, to basically living for Jesus and living for God. How our classrooms were set up was discussion. So it'd be like 15, 20 people maximum in a class. And we'd all like pretty much sit in a circle and we would read something. Like we read a lot of C.S. Lewis. That was probably who we read most, who C.S. is amazing. So we'd all sit and discuss. And at first, like I would never speak. I had gone to like a predominantly Black high school before, and this was like a predominantly white high school, so I wasn't really comfortable. It was really different, but we would all speak, and there was like never a right or wrong answer. And throughout the rest of high school, it was awesome. Like the school was amazing. Like Reverend Stratton, Reverend Butler, Dave O'Neill, and then my coach Barikoff, who is someone that is near and dear to my heart. Probably my favorite coach I've ever had. He really had an effect on me at that high school. He changed my life in ways unimaginable with basketball, but just with, kind of your mindset every day. And he would always use this word agape, which I ended up getting it tattooed on my arm. And agape is basically like, it's Greek for like the Father's unconditional love, God's unconditional love. And that's kind of been my theme. At the core of who I am, I want to be a form of agape love. So love people unconditionally, regardless of it. And then so I ended up going to Pepperdine University after high school, and which was another Christian school. And the staff, the faculty was amazing. I learned a lot about Christianity and whatnot.
And when you made that commitment to go to a Christian university, mm-hmm. did a lot of that have to do with your experience at a Christian high school?
Yes, absolutely. It definitely prepared me more than someone who had not gone to a Christian high school, I would say, because for one, another one of my favorite coaches I've ever played for, Lorenzo Romar, who was our head coach there, is a huge man of faith. And so my ability to interact with him was different, but I was able to interact with my high school coach, who was a big follower of Christ. And so it helped in that way. And then just in like the classroom, I had a professor named Ned Coletti. He was a former GM of the Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants. And he was awesome. And like he would always say like all that, the reason he's here today is because of the Lord. And like I've been very fortunate growing up, like starting with my father, to have like very, very important and very high level men who've been able to help guide me and teach me what it means to be a man and be a man of Christ.
Mm-hmm. I love that you pointed out and even named so many key influences in your life. Going back to your high school basketball mm-hmm. coach, if you had to pick a few things, what are the things that really stuck with you that he taught you?
Mm-hmm. I would say agape, number one. When I first transferred, I was in a difficult space because where I was going now was nothing like where I was at before. And it was very hard for me to adjust to the school that I was going to at first. And he did nothing but just love me, like through all like the craziness I was doing, through all like me acting a fool, whether that be in practice, and I'm a very competitive person. I really love to win. And like sometimes I would let that like competitiveness take over my emotion, and I would let that emotion dictate how I treated people at times. So we would always talk about it. He would say like, man, you're blacking out. You black out. And it's just, I just go on like this crazy spiel and I don't even really realize what I'm saying or after because I'm so mad and so upset with emotion. But he told me you can be tough and still love people. And I think that was like one of the biggest things I've learned in my life. And him and my father both, because we have this thing called the 3-man weave. We still texting it all the time. And me, him, my dad, like my dad number one, but coach taught me like you can love, like loving people is really all that matters in life. And like when you're young, like I always would say I was like a good person, but like there would be times where I wasn't the best person to be around because I was so upset about something or I was so mad. And he really helped me in that way. He would always say, like, he would always ask us who's the most important person in here. And it would be like the guy next to me. And kind of that mentality is what I've picked up and gone throughout my life. So he really taught me a lot because we grew up very similarly in terms of like financially wise. And he just really helped me. He's changed my life in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. As you're talking about that agape love and love for other people, it makes me think of the Bible verse, we love because he first loved us. Mm-hmm. And I think at times, if you're not walking with the Lord, the flesh can take over and our minds Absolutely. Can take over and we can respond out of anger. Mm-hmm. But when we're leaning on him, we can truly, love other people as he has loved us. You talked about like the transformation in your life. Mm-hmm. Was there a moment where you made a commitment to Jesus?
Yeah, I would say, so when I first had transferred to that school, there's like this retreat. Every year, the school goes on like an all-school retreat. They take your phones for like 3 days. You go up to a cabin. There was one in Arizona that we go to. We went to 2 different ones when I was there because COVID happened my last year, so we weren't able to do it. So we went to like basically like almost like a cabin, like a huge cabin, and we'd all go there and sit down and like we'd talk. So there would be like a chapel speaker and then we'd all eat together like as a whole school. We'd have like free time to do activities. And then there was like these teams, like there was orange, red, green, and blue team. And like these teams would compete, like doing like interesting, like funny challenges, like passing like a watermelon between our legs with like soap on it so it slips, see who gets first. And then at the end of the retreat, a team would win and whatnot. And I would say the retreat was the biggest thing that changed my life. There was a speaker from like a local church that spoke there while I was there, and some of the kids were like falling asleep, and it really caught my attention, kind of what he was talking about. And he was kind of talking about this similar message of like what it's like to be in a hard place and what it's like, because at the time, I mean, I'm 14, 15 years old. So like the world is so big and you might not necessarily know kind of what is what. And I just remember listening to him. His name was Ben. And like I was just listening to him and I kind of broke down. And it was like the Holy Spirit had hit me or something, because that had never happened to me all throughout church I had gone to in my life. My mom's family and my stepdad's family, they're like there's pastors and whatnot, and I would go listen to church with them, or I'd go to church with my dad, and never have I been hit with like the wave of the Holy Spirit like that ever in my life until that moment. And that was really like, okay, like this is who I want to live for. And since then, when I was younger, like the more I've grown into adulthood, like when I was at Pepperdine, I would say was the biggest transformation in my adulthood life when it comes to Christ, because we didn't win a lot of games my first year there, and that really took a strain on me and on my mental. And so anyways, there was a girl that I went to high school with. Her name's Catherine Kane. Her mom's Christine Kane. And her mom's like a huge, I would say pastor, but she works for like an agency organization called A21 that helps with like human trafficking. And so she's amazing. She talks about how like God had changed her life. And so I was best friends with Katie Kane in high school. And then I had a teammate named Kendall Munson at Pepperdine. And Katie also went to Pepperdine. So that's where I'll get to. So it was like us three, a friend named Adrian, a friend named Destiny. We would all like go to like this home church kind of thing. Like that was just hosted at Pepperdine. And I really, really got involved with it. I'd met a lot of great people. And so one day we ended up going to Church Home, which is Judah Smith, in which he was hosting something in LA. And so we went, and like this, I would say this verse changed my life. There's been 2 verses that changed my life. This is the first one. So when we were there, he was talking about anxiety. And I'm someone who's struggled with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder. So there's been things I've struggled with when it comes to my brain and things that's very hard for me to deal with. And so he said, it was Matthew 6:33, 34, and it said, "Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has a trouble of its own." And when he said that, like something came, like just clicked in my brain. And I kind of got that same feeling that I did when I was younger. And it really changed my life. There's so many days that we have no control over. Like I have no control over who wins March Madness. I have no control over that right now. I can't tell you who's gonna win, but I can tell you that God has me secure today and he's gonna help me today. And if I worry about today itself, then tomorrow I'll worry about today, and kind of that routine. And that's kind of been my life. And with that, like I started journaling in the morning and at night, basically my thoughts throughout the day. And now I kind of just take notes all day throughout, whether that be film, practice. I'm always trying to take notes and learn, because today is all that is promised. Like God woke me up today for a reason. I'm gonna try and get as much out of today as I possibly can. But that's probably one of the biggest verses that impacted my life that I can remember in my adulthood, that I'm like, wow.
When you hear Tuscaloosa, Alabama, this is probably not the action that comes to mind. Many associate our city with a football dynasty, and they're not wrong. But we are so much more. We want to show you a different side of Tuscaloosa, one that is slower and simpler, but equally as important. This is the side where we still appreciate sunsets, the morning calm, and the natural beauty that makes our community unique. Nestled away in the heart of West Alabama, Tuscaloosa offers an endless scene of outdoor adventure. You'll never run out of options. So whether you're looking for an adrenaline rush or a peaceful retreat, we have it all. From a state park to many lakes and rivers, green spaces and river walks, you can always enjoy the sunshine here. We hope this reminds you, in Tuscaloosa, many more adventures await.
One thing that's stood out in your story so far is whether it's peers or whether it's coaches or your parents, you've seemed to, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, do a really good job of leaning on other people through hardship. Absolutely. And so my question is, what would you say to someone who is struggling with anxiety, depression, mental health issues, and they don't know where to go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, a lot of people, they ask me, like, why I'm always, like, smiling or happy and whatnot. And I just say it's God, because there's nothing in my life that's ever happened. And there's been, like, tough times growing up, but nothing as hard as, like, trying to battle with your inner thoughts. Because your brain, I mean, our chaplain here, Scotty, always says, your thoughts lead to actions, your actions lead to habits, your habits lead to your character, and your character leads to your destiny. And it all starts up here. So, like, for anyone who's going through hardship, I would say, for one, pray, like, seek God, because there is peace in that. Like, we live in a world where, I mean, shoot, I play basketball. Like, everything is performance-based in basketball. If you're working at a job, it's all performance-based. If you do well in your performance, you're rewarded. If you don't do as well in your performance, you don't get rewarded as much. With God, there is no performance. There's no performance you can give that's gonna make him be like, wow, or that's...
Why is that?
Because Jesus died. Jesus died for us. He paid the price. Like, leaning into like the second verse, I was talking with Scotty, our chaplain, and we were talking about what it means to serve in life. And that's kind of where I feel like my purpose is in life, is to serve others and love others. Love others, more importantly. Loving others is key. Like that whole agape mentality. And in Mark 10:45, he says, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus came here to serve others. Like, when you talk about like during the Last Supper and his final hours here on earth, I mean, he washed the feet. Like, that was like the lowest of low thing you can do in terms of society back then, is wash someone's feet. And like, Jesus washed the feet. And man, like, when I feel like once I started to adopt that mindset, like in high school, probably starting, and be like, okay, like this, like, life's not about me. It's about the person next to me. And a lot of times we get so wrapped up in like me. Because, I mean, obviously social media, we play a sport, there's a lot of attention on it. And a lot of times people really get wrapped up in like what others may think of you. And like, it taints kind of your image of yourself. But if you find peace in God, like, you'll find peace in yourself. Like, one thing, like my teammates always say is like, I'm super comfortable in my skin. And that's because of God, because I know God loves me. So if God loves me, like, why would I? And it's been a process, because it's like, you have to really rewire kind of how your mind works. You have to really take notes, you have to read, you have to really develop like, okay, like, I'm going to be comfortable in who God made me to be and not who the world may want me to be. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, that's like, for anyone out there dealing with like mental illness or anxiety, depression, all that, like, it's tough. I totally feel and understand where you're coming from, but God's got you. Like, he's got you. And because he's got you, like, there's people out there who love you and that God will speak through. Like, God has spoke through so many of my coaches in my life, even the coaches here now. Like, God speaks through Coach Panone to me every single day. And it's like, sometimes things are going to be scary in life and there's a huge unknown, but if you can like really focus on like where your feet are at, like, God's got you. Because that is, I mean, that's tough. Like, dealing with anything mentally is like, because it, like, man, it makes you feel like you can't wake up in the morning, like you can't get out of bed, you know, like you don't want to do anything. And it's like constantly there, but it's going to take work, but it's like, God's going to be there with you through the entire storm.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, looking at your life and even your basketball career, like in high school, scored over 1,000 points. At Pepperdine, scored over 1,000 points. Now you're at one of the top programs in the country, and the world will tell you, Houston, it's all about you. Like, you've been given all these gifts, you've been performing so well, and so it's all about you. Yeah. And so I think it's very wise that you've really taken this mentality of thinking about that person next to you.
Absolutely.
And even for you being in a position of influence, it can become easy to really use that influence and like reach. Mm-hmm. But if you're forgetting that person that's right next to you and needs you, you know, that you wouldn't be able to help that person. And so I'm sure you've made a lot of positive impact here and in your previous stops as well.
Appreciate that. Because like, it is like, you never really know what somebody's going through. Like, even in film every day. Like we come in and we like are laser focused on basketball, of course, right? But like you don't know what like LeBaron, what may have happened in his life last night, or Mark, or anybody in there. So if you can be like a sign of life, or like a sign of like joy, and most importantly, like a sign of love, that's more important than anything. Mm-hmm. Like I love basketball, I'm obsessed with basketball. But life is greater than basketball. Mm-hmm. Like love is really, I think that's Jesus' whole message is about love. Mm-hmm. And God's love for us, and like loving others is important. And yeah, like a lot of times people, I mean, we all do, I do, like we get wrapped up in like, man, like there's a lot of things going on in my life, but like all that matters to me really in my life is loving and serving other people, because like that's where I get my joy from. That's where I get my happiness from, and I really believe that that's what God put me on earth to do, is to like love people. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of like spiritual growth and mm-hmm. spiritual maturity. So my next question for you is, as you sit here today, who is Jesus to you?
I would say, like a lot of times we talk about like who's the GOAT in like sports and whatever field it may be. But like Jesus is like the GOAT of life. Like Jesus, I mean, over 2,000 years ago walked the earth, and he's still like one of the most famous and captivating names in history. Like we still talk about Jesus, and like people are still coming to follow him. And Jesus is everything to me. Like people ask, like, especially in the Bay Area, like they would always ask like, okay, well, what if God isn't real? And I never had an answer for that. And then now, like I've kind of developed this mindset, okay, like even if God wasn't real, why wouldn't you want to live the way Jesus did? Like back then, Jesus hung out with and he loved and he helped and he healed people who what we look at society as like less than. But Jesus came and like loved these people, and he changed these people. And on top of that, Jesus died for you, me, everybody who walks the earth, everybody who believes in God, hates God, doesn't believe in God. He died for all of them. He gave us all a choice. Like, I mean, I'll go back to like everything you need to know about Jesus is when he's on the cross and he's being crucified. And like the Romans crucifying him, and the people there, he tells God, forgive them, Father, for they not know what they have done. Mm-hmm. Like, forgive them. That's insane. Like, if I was being crucified, that probably would not come out of my mouth. It probably wouldn't come out of anybody's mouth. Right. I mean, even when Jesus is like talking with God in the garden before, when him and God are having like this conversation that he's gonna have to go through with this, and like you see like the 100% human version of Jesus, like, I mean, sweating like blood almost, like distraught about what's about to happen, and he still did it. Mm-hmm. There's nobody else like that in the entire world. So I would say Jesus is everything. Jesus loves you, man. Wherever you're at in life, whatever walk of life you're in, he loves you.
Mm-hmm. For people that might not know God yet or might not have a relationship with him, where would you tell them to start?
I would say I would start with the Gospels. If I was going to start anywhere, or I would just start with a prayer. Honestly, like something super, super simple. It doesn't make you, because I have like a lot of friends and family back home who aren't believers in God. And a lot of times they feel like people push that faith and they feel a lot of pressure on it. And I don't believe it should feel like that. I feel like that it should feel more like I've been saying, like peace. I would start with a prayer, like just like a conversation. And you can literally tell God whatever you want, like whatever you want, and he's gonna be there, he's gonna listen, he's gonna love you. So that's where I would say to start. And then when you really start wanting to get to know Jesus outside of prayer, I would really start with the Gospels. Like Luke is phenomenal. Matthew, I remember when I first started, I started with Matthew, so.
Yeah, no, that's really sound advice. So you had a great career basketball-wise at Pepperdine, and then decided to enter the transfer portal. What led to that decision for you?
Yeah, so it was, so Pepperdine's in the West Coast Conference. The West Coast Conference tournament is like the very first week of March, so it's before everybody's conference tournament. So a week before heading into that, like after our last game of the season, our coach, the university had let him go. Someone I hold very near and dear to my heart. I love Coach Romar, and I called my father the next day, and I like at the time I was actually pretty mad at this school because just in the manner they did it, like I didn't think it was very professional, and I don't think that's. We didn't win a lot of games, so I don't think he should have. Like, I can't tell you that them letting him go was the wrong decision. I just think the manner and how they did it and how they explained it and went through with it, I don't think that was fair to us as kids without any type of conversation or anything like that. Well, at the end of the day, business is business. So college basketball is a business and you need to win games. So that day, prayed, I was pretty distraught, and I talked to my dad, and like I entered the portal the very next day. I had gotten hurt at the time. I had hurt my knee pretty bad. I felt it was in the best interest for me to hit the portal the next day just to show that I was with my coach. Like that was something that was very important to me. It was like, okay, like I need to show I have his back. Like if he's not gonna be here, I'm not gonna be here. So that's why I decided to hit the transfer portal so quick, because everybody was asking like, why? Like, why'd you hit it so fast? And then, yeah, like once I hit it, Alabama was like one of the first schools to call me. Coach Preston Murphy. He called me, and it was crazy. Like, man, I'm like Alabama, that's nuts. You know, like I'm at a school like Pepperdine, and now I have a chance to play at Alabama. So he called me, and then we kind of built a pretty good relationship. It happened pretty quick. I was only in the portal for like around 10 days. So he called me like, I believe he was one of the first people to call me. Then like 2 days later, we talked again. And then they had lost to Florida in the conference tournament, and they were coming back. And he was like talking about coming on a visit. So I came that Sunday on Selection Sunday. So I got to experience like Selection Sunday with the team last year, which is pretty cool. I'd never gotten to experience that before. So, and then while I was on my visit, I heard Coach Pannone, who's someone I hold near and dear to my heart. He's on our staff right now. And he talked about a guy named Garrett Temple, and how Garrett Temple is one of his favorite players ever, if not his favorite ever, and just the type of person he was. And like how he explained that person, this is honest to God truth, how he explained Garrett Temple was how I wanted to be as someone that I would be like, that's who I want to be like when I grow up. Someone who cares about his teammates, loves his coaches, shows up on time, does his work, doesn't complain, low maintenance, loves his teammates. And once Coach Pannone said that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm coming here. That was kind of the kicker. So then I had committed, basically right there in the film room with the whole coaching staff. And I was like, yeah, this is the place I really want to be. And it's been awesome ever since I've gotten here.
So transitioning from Pepperdine to Alabama, a big program, one of the top teams in the country this year. Going into the season as a team, what were some of the team goals for the Alabama basketball team?
Some of the goals were that we wanted to win 4 championships. So that being the Players era, which was in Vegas, the SEC regular season, the SEC tournament, and then the national championship. Those were our goals. We wanted to win 4 championships. And I would say like a goal we really had was just really see how far we could take this thing. We have a lot of great guys. We have a lot of veteran guys. We have a lot of great young guys. So it's kind of like a mix of both. And I'm excited because I don't think we've peaked yet at all. I think we're still getting better. But yeah, man, like it's cool having God on this journey because like it's not over yet. March is almost here. So I'm really excited. But as a team, like I think we've started to adopt a mindset like, yeah, the championship's gonna be here before we know it. It's gonna be here in about a month, maybe a month or a little more. The SEC regular season is gonna end in around 2-3 weeks. The tournament's gonna end a week or 2 after that, and then comes March Madness. So that's a lot to think about. But kind of going back to that verse of Matthew, like I think us as a team have adopted, okay, like we got to practice the best we can. We got to practice as hard as we can today because like today the dividends we pay in today, or like Coach Oates would say this all the time. It's like national championships aren't won in April. They're won on a random day in like September or a random day in July. Like a day where we really might not feel like practicing, like, or a day you really might not feel like doing something, but just getting it done and doing it to the best of your ability. And I think as a team, we've adopted that mindset. And that's our main goal. We're going to worry about today, and we're going to worry about everything internally that we can fix and we can help get better.
Mm-hmm. And then for you personally, how exciting is it to have an opportunity to participate in March Madness?
It's awesome. I've never gotten to participate in March Madness. My year here has been something that's very interesting. It's kind of been crazy. So I came in, didn't practice at all this summer. I had ongoing like knee issues. So we get to the fall, still not practicing for like the first month I get back. So for the first like 5 months I was here, I didn't practice. Started practicing, still trying to rehab and nurse my knee injury. And yeah, I mean, so we decided we're gonna redshirt to start the year. And then Latrell Reitzel, he goes down in Vegas. He got hurt. And so after that, I was like, I had talked to Coach Oates and the rest of the staff, and they were like, okay, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to come out the red shirt? We think you can help us win and whatnot. And I was like, absolutely. Like, I want to get a chance to play. And so I came out of the red shirt, played, I think, like 6 or 7 games, which was awesome. And then kind of been dealing with more knee stuff that's been bothering me a lot. So missed a couple games, and then we're trying to look to see if I can get like a medical red shirt for this year. So it's been a whirlwind of a year, but it's been a lot of fun. And just being someone who's vocal, who's a leader, who loves his teammates, I think is awesome. But being able to like eat all the games I play in, I'm like, this is big time. Like my first college game here at Bama was at North Carolina. Like it doesn't, like how much better does it get than that? Like you're a little kid and you're like, dang man, I got to play at the, I'll tell my kids one day I play at the University of North Carolina. Like you see all their banners and all the Michael Jordan stuff and the championships they've won. It's surreal. So I think it's awesome. I think it's an ongoing process day by day. Like even now, like now that I'm not able to like practice and play in the games, like my attack in rehab is still the same. My attack with making sure I'm trying to nurse my injury is still the same. And I kind of actually want to show you this.
Yeah.
Because I went on like this this kind of spiel in my room. And so basically I just started kind of mapping out stuff on my wall.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's for real.
So I started mapping stuff out on my wall about like what like will help with my recovery, my daily routine, kind of just putting my thoughts onto paper. And like the biggest thing up there that I think is pretty cool, it says, therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow has its own worries, but worry about today. And so kind of that going down, it's crazy, but that's kind of how I am as a learner, like just mapping out, but it's been awesome. I think God obviously has me going through this for a reason. He's building me in ways that I'm incredibly blessed to be in the position I am today, so I'm excited.
Vision and goal setting seems to be something that's been a little bit lost over the last, let's say, 5 years. Can you speak to the benefits of, and not everyone, I've never seen anything that detailed. I'm impressed by that. But can you speak to the benefits of goal setting and having a vision for yourself personally?
Mm-hmm. I think goal setting is amazing. We have a guy named, who's our strength conditioning coach. His name is Hen. And then we have our athletic trainer, who I'm also really close with, Clark Holter. And so like before the season, like when we're having like our team meetings and stuff, like they talk about like goal setting and what that means. And it's like, goal setting is great. You just also have to make sure you have a system in place that will help you get to the goal. So it's interesting. How many thoughts do you think go through our heads a day? Like
hundreds of thousands.
Exactly. So my thought process is, Coach Hen, he writes like everything down. He writes everything down, like whether we're in film, whether he's reading and whatnot. So I'm like, that's pretty interesting. I write down my thoughts in the morning and when I go to sleep. But then I was like, man, I'm gonna start like just writing down like everything I hear. Cause like our film sessions can go long. Our film sessions can be like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I'm writing everything down in film. When I'm on like the 1 year plan of reading the Bible in a year. So like every time I read that or devotional, I'm like taking notes on that. And that's kind of helped me get my thoughts down on paper. And when it's on paper, like I put a lot of them on my wall. And like the wall thing was just like out of the moment. I was like, my walls are white. I don't have a whiteboard. I'm just gonna write all over the wall. And it's helped like just how I feel every day, to the food I eat, I write down, to what I watched today, like kind of everything I put down on paper. And I think it's very, like it's changed my life, like writing things down and reading, because there's so much knowledge out there. And if you can like write down for what you envision, like I put something on there that I was like, okay, like I've been dealing with like chronic knee and tendon issues for about like 3 years now. I grew super fast in high school, had like Osgood slaughters, and then my muscles didn't develop fast enough for how much like I was pounding work-wise. Well, like I've had to shift my mindset from like killing my body and running my body in the ground doesn't equate like working hard. So like when I figured that out, like working hard is like you can watch film, writing things down is working hard. And so I've kind of like, I put down there where like, I put like running yourself into the ground, equal sign with a slash, does not equal working hard. And I'm like, how can I defeat what my chronic knee pain is? This is how it all started. And so as I'm writing that stuff down, there's a book I'm reading called, it's like The Positive Way to Think. I can't remember what the title is, but there's a message in there that says like, our attitudes are more important than facts, because, and this is how I took it when I read it. A lot of times in life, there's been facts, like Moses parting the Red Sea. Could I go to Egypt right now and part the Red Sea? No. Like God works in some mysterious ways. There's people that die and wake up and like there's no explanation for it. So our attitude is like, doctors in the past, like when I was at Pepperdine or growing up, told me like, I'm gonna have to get my knees replaced in around 15, 20 years, or I'm going to, like, it probably will never entirely go away. Well, I'm like, man, so I let that dictate kind of my thought process And I'm like, man, like, no, screw that. Like, I'm going to do everything in my power with the help of God and my community to figure out, okay, like, I'm going to bulletproof my knees, because like, if my knees feel better, how can that help throughout my life? And kind of, I just started mapping that down. I started writing it in my notebook. And then one night I just went on the wall and started writing it down. I wrote like what foods I should be eating, what foods I should stay away from, to what my flexibility and mobility routines are. And then at the top, I put like the Bible verses that I really live by, because I'm like, through that is going to be the reason that all this happens. And I have to remember that. And so at the bottom, I wrote your thoughts. I drew a brain. So the brain was pink, and I wrote the thoughts in pink lead to your actions, which like my actions are color coded in red, or I forget what color they're in, but they're color coded. My actions was like how I'm going to attack like my everyday health, my everyday routine, my like my knee, how I'm going to help my knees feel better. And then I wrote my habits, which is like my routine. So I color coded that the same. And then my habits lead to my character, which my character, I drew a heart, because I believe that character comes from your heart, which leads to your destiny. And the destiny I put in green and red, which is a mix of like what my heart is. And the green is all the Bible verses, which is my destiny. So I think that's really helped me in my life.
Yeah. We'll end with a few fun questions, but before that, I love that you came very prepared with notes. So is there anything else that you wanted to share? Or do you feel like you covered it all?
Yeah, no, I feel like I covered, I hit all.
Okay,
all
perfect. So you mentioned you even write down the food that you eat. So what are some of your favorite restaurants in Tuscaloosa?
Some of my favorite restaurants in Tuscaloosa. All right, for one, this is really good. Do you like wings? Place called Catch a Taste. It's literally like right down the street from my house. And when Latrell was hurt, I had asked our nutritionist like what's something he really likes to eat. So me and Clark, who's going to speak on here later, we brought Catch a Taste to him, and he got this thing called Sweet Heat. And I'm like, all right, man, like I'm just going to try it. Like it was fire. Like I'd ate that for like the next like 4 or 5 days. So Catch a Taste is really good. Chuck's is really good. Chuck's is like, I think Chuck's works with our basketball team, so we have like a lot of team dinners there. We just had a team dinner there the other night. Half Shell's good. I really like Half Shell if you like oysters. Fruit Lovely, really good. It's like acai bowls, smoothies, and whatnot. I'm a big sushi guy. Chuck's has good sushi. The best sushi I've had so far is this place called Tokyo Express, which is here. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like California sushi. They need to bring poke bowls here, because that's something I love. But I would say those are the best restaurants in Tuscaloosa.
In the future, you might have to bring it here yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And then what are some of your hobbies, like outside of basketball and outside of seeking the Lord? What are some things you like to do for fun?
I like reading a lot. I love shows and movies. Love shows and movies. Like I'm a huge show fanatic. Clark Holter, who's our athletic trainer, he's watched like pretty much every movie and every show like ever. And so when I got here, we talked about like some like the elite movies like Pulp Fiction and whatnot, like that the average person probably wouldn't have watched, but like movie connoisseurs and people who love watching movies are like, yeah, that's elite. So he's given me some really good shows, some really good movies to watch, and I've been on like a show heater. Like each show he keeps giving me, I'm like, this is amazing.
And then the last question for you is, what is it like to play for Coach Oates?
It's a lot of fun. I'd say Coach Oates he's probably the most competitive human being I've met in my life. Like Coach Oates wants to win, but he's also one of the smartest people I've met in my life. Coach Oates, like we had like a coaches clinic here. And this is how I knew our coaches were really high level. So they bring like coaches all around the country. Like Dusty May was there. The Mavericks coach was there. There was like D2 coaches there, junior college coaches, like coaches from all over the world. There was probably European coaches in there too. Nobody's asking more questions than Coach Oates. And like I got to sit in and take notes and really listen, because that's eventually what I want to do. I want to coach in college, and that was dope. But I love Coach Oates. I really love our staff. I believe they really want to, like, they're very competitive and want to win. I also think they're really good people, more than anything. And Coach Oates has a strong relationship with Christ as well. Coach Oates is amazing, but I will say he is intense. He is definitely intense. So, and to play here, you have to love basketball. Mm-hmm. That's like one of the biggest things. Like, you got to fall in love with basketball. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, our coaches are amazing. And then last hobby I really like is cooking.
Okay.
I love to cook. I make like a ton of meals.
What's your best dish?
My best dish is honestly probably my steak. Like, I make a pretty good steak, but something I've been digging though is like, this is really California. It's really California to me. So I'll make like ground beef, right? Ground beef with some eggs, or like chicken, and like I'll mix it with like mango. So like mango chunks, and I put like a protein with it, and I really like how it tastes, but a lot of people probably wouldn't like it, but that's kind of the main thing.
And one more, I forgot to ask this one earlier. Your shirt says "Powered by Jesus." What does that mean to you?
I think being powered by Jesus that's why I am the way I am. That's who I am. It's a product of Jesus. It's a product of God. I believe I'm one of God's many sons. And I wouldn't be who I am today without God. Like, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in without Jesus. So like, when I'm powered by Jesus, like, I believe in my heart is Jesus, if that makes sense. Obviously, I'm not Jesus, but like, my heart is coming from a place that, like,
the Holy Spirit lives within you.
Yep, mm-hmm. The Holy Spirit lives within me, exactly. I really believe that God put me on this earth to like love and have an impact in people's life. And like, that's really all that matters to me, is like to love and interact with other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, Houston, thanks so much for joining us. We're definitely excited to watch Alabama in the Final Four run, and wish you guys all the best.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Visit Tuscaloosa is proud to sponsor this podcast series. Tuscaloosa isn't just a place, it's a way of life. It's where game day is more than a tradition. With wide open waters and endless skies, art, music, and culture paint the city's soul. So whether you come for the thrill, the taste, the beauty, or the tradition, you'll stay for the Tusca life. Are you ready to feel it? Head to visittuscaloosa.com to plan your trip today.